I'm making this video today to talk about an experience that was had at the weekend concerning an ego who I had a very interesting conversation with last night, and I thought it would be interesting to tell you how it looks from my perspective, because from the person whose ego it was, it probably doesn't look quite the same. But my partner, he's been a seeker of the truth for a very long time, and he has a very good connection to truth. He's a Buddhist. He's been a Buddhist for many years, and spends a lot of time in meditation and contemplating and pondering and doing all the things that when you're on the path to finding yourself you do. And he has a very good take on it, but he also has this other side of him, this ego side, that continually tells him what he should and shouldn't be doing and berates him almost on a moment-to-moment basis. We've noticed it before, but we recently started to talk about it and to sort of bring it into the light by, when he was noticing it happening, he was telling me the things that he was saying. And we named him Sir, because I don't know why he's Sir, but he is. He has a sort of vibe about him like a teacher, like a kind of, a dictator. He is dictatorial, and he basically would make his life pretty uncomfortable, because it's very difficult when you can't do anything right, when you have something in you that's continuously telling you that you're doing something wrong. It's tiring and it's hard work, and this part of his mind would just basically shit on everything all the time. Whatever he did was wrong, except if he did something that he thought was right, and then his reaction would be, well done, you are becoming more like me. His thing was pointing out right and wrong all the time. You've done that right, you've done that wrong, you could do that like that, you should do that like that. One of his things was that Ed should be meditating basically continuously, because that was one of the things that he had decided, that he would be able to find enlightenment if he was continuously meditating. But this part not realising that actually he is the issue. And so after he'd had a tough week at work last week, and then the weekend, my foot caught in the wire. I'm sat cross-legged and my knees aching, so I put my legs out, hang on, pull the microphone on the floor. This is quite precarious. So yeah, he had a tough week, and then by Friday night when he came home from work, he was this part of him had been being an arse for most of the day. And so we kind of noticed it a lot over the weekend. So last night, I said to him, right, I want to talk to him. I want to talk to this part of your mind and find out what his issue is. What is his problem? What is it that he's not seeing? That he's continually pushing you towards what he thinks is enlightenment. Yet what he's not realising is that his constant barrage of insult and dictatorship is actually what is in the way of that. So let's see if we can sit down and talk. Let me talk directly to him. And so we did. We sat down, and I started to ask him questions, and this part of the mind sort of came forward, and it's like everything about him changed. Like his whole demeanour and everything became more sure of himself. This part is quite sure of himself, or was very opinionated, but his opinion was that Ed could not function in the world without him. That without him continually telling him how he should and shouldn't be doing things, that everything would go to shit. And so I started to talk to him about the fact that isn't actually the case, and that without him continually berating, that a much happier life could be had, because it was his continual criticism and dictatorship that was on top of just the natural state of being. And that if he wasn't there doing that, then the human, because he could see himself as not being the main person. He could see Ed as Ed, and he could see himself as the one sitting on the shoulder, having to continually say, well, you should be doing this. Why are you not doing that? Why are you not doing it how I say you should do it? You know, if you would only just do what I say, everything would be okay. So he could see that. He could see he wasn't actually the main character, but he felt himself to be very, very important. So my role was continually pointing out to him that he was actually surplus to requirements, and that him doing what he was doing was actually a hindrance, not a help. And it took quite a long time for him to sort of start to get this. And he was very clever in the way that he would try to change the subject away from things. So I would put him in a spot, and then he would come up with something, point something out in the room, or just sort of try and make a joke or change the subject, or just like, oh yes, anyway, enough of that. Let's move away from that thing that I'm finding a bit uncomfortable right now. And so we worked on this for probably about 45 minutes, and I didn't mollycoddle it at all. I was a little bit nervous about where it might go, because I didn't know how he was going to react to me continually pointing out that he was made up, and that he didn't need to be doing what he was doing, and that his opinion was actually not really that relevant or important, and that he was actually a hindrance. And he found it really, really difficult to see that. He was saying things along the lines of, well, he can't be with a woman like you because he's just like a child. And I was saying, no, he isn't. He's a man. And he's saying, yeah, but I'm superior to him. I mean, surely you'd rather have me than him. I was saying, well, no, I wouldn't actually. I like him. He's in my opinion, he's honest, he's kind, he's loving, he's open. And he was like, yeah, but I'm strong, and I'm powerful, and I'm this and I'm that. And I said, yeah, but I like him, not you. I just couldn't fathom it. It was actually quite funny. I was trying hard not to laugh at him because I didn't want to ridicule him. But and everything that he came up with, I was pointing out that he didn't need to. Yeah, but I need to keep him on, I need to tell him when he's doing right and wrong. He's going, well, no, you don't. Because it's not even any of your business what he does. You've imposed this role on yourself that you have to be there continually telling him what to do, but actually you don't. And so if you were to stop doing that, he could just get on with life. So each moment would just happen without a commentary from you telling him that he's getting it wrong. You are the rule maker. You're the one that's collected all the rules of how things should be, and you're imposing those rules on him. Like you say you want enlightenment, yet you are the very thing that is stopping the enlightenment from happening. It would be your absence that would cause the enlightenment to happen. So there was a lot of, what? So if I wasn't here, that would happen for him. Yeah, but it needs to happen for you. Because what you need to do is see through the fact that what you're doing is pointless. And without you, life would just be life. It's your constant need to be picking at it that causes the separation. So you're pushing him continually to be in meditation, yet he can't meditate you away because you're there giving him jip all the time for not doing it for long enough, not doing it hard enough, not doing it to your satisfaction, where in fact your absence would mean that he had freedom. And so there was a lot of confusion from this perspective. He was like, oh, so you're saying that it's me that has to go? And I was saying, yeah, it's you that has to give up. Enlightenment will happen if you're not there. But it was like, but I don't want to not exist. I'm this. I'm all this, that, and a packet of crisps. And but you're really not. You're just a made up entity that was made up at a time of childhood to what you thought was to protect, but you're still doing it. And so eventually got him to see that he could actually leave, that he could give up his place and allow the natural humanness to be around without him, which was very confusing for him to start with. I was saying to him, if you imagine that it's like for the last 50 odd years you've had a job, and your job as you've seen it is to look after him and keep him safe, but today is your day of retirement and you can walk away now, you can put the whole thing down, say, okay, you're grown up, you can do your own thing, I'm just going to go and let you go. And he was saying, well, where am I going to go? Show me the door and I'll go. Okay, well, what you need to do then is turn away from this looking outwards here into this world, this life, and turn the other way towards the nothingness, where you meld back into reality. But it didn't want to do that. It didn't like the idea of not existing. It couldn't get its head around the fact that it could just meld back into the wholeness, and give up its hold and its reign. And he described it as, it's like when he meditates, it's like he jumps in and swims around in the lake, and then this ego part sits on the side of the lake, or the ego part was saying this itself, I sit there, I watch him in the water, and then as soon as he gets out, I'm on him again. So I was saying to him, okay, so you can see him swimming around in the lake, so your job now is to get up and walk away. You just walk off. And it was really struggling with the idea of not existing, and it didn't like the idea of meditating, which was ironic considering how much it dictates to Ed that he should be meditating. But it itself did not want the idea of meditation, doesn't like the idea of it because it meant the lack of its existence. And so it was, I was saying, right, so what we need to do now is to like go inwards, close your eyes. And he was going, I don't want to do that. It's boring. There's nothing happens there. There's nothing there. So again, but that's the nothing that you have to go into. But to the ego, the thought of becoming nothing is tantamount to death. It doesn't realise that it's actually liberation. It's the dropping of all the stuff it thinks it has to continually keep an eye on and keep its, I've got to keep all this working the way that I want it to work. It's about giving up and returning to source where it can just be free. So after quite some considerable time of sort of going into it and out of it, it kind of suddenly understood that it was the issue, that it relinquishing its hold over the reality was what would, it was like it searched for, it's been like enlightenment, want enlightenment, but you get the enlightenment and I will reap the benefits of that because you won't be being so annoying to me. It couldn't understand that it was annoying itself by the way that it behaved, and that if it could just let go of everything that it thinks that it needs to hold on to, that reality could actually step in. That would be, the lack of it is the enlightenment. But eventually it got it, and then it saw itself relinquishing this by thinking, imagine what a relief it would be when you realise you can stop. You can just stop thinking that you have to control this person in this life. You can just give it up. And eventually it got it, and it saw itself going into the ocean and becoming a wave, and then popping back out of the wave and going, oh, what's going on? Then becoming the wave again, and then popping back out and in and out. And eventually it did it enough that it allowed itself to go into like the ocean and become a dolphin, and to swim away in that wonderful relaxedness of just being without having to be the dictator of a person. And it was quite an amazing thing to watch and to witness happen. And obviously from his perspective, from Ed's perspective, the relief of the freedom that then created in his mind of not having this going on all the time. Like, it will probably come back. It might be gone, it might be, because these things can go and not come back, but the chances are it probably will. Something will trigger it and it will be back. But now he has the perspective of being able to see it from the reality perspective of, and reminding this part, remember, you don't have to do this. You don't have to tell me what to do. I can be a grown-up. I can run my own life. I can accept the ups and the downs and the... That's another thing it was saying, but, you know, I have to point out when something's good and when something's bad. And I'm saying, but if you weren't there pointing it out, there wouldn't be good or bad. There's only good and bad because you're continually saying, you've done good, you've done bad. That's good enough, that's not good enough. That's right, that's wrong. If you stop doing that, then there wouldn't be any of that because there would be no need. You know, it's you that's doing it. And it got it, and it appears at this moment to be gone. Whether or not it comes back, I don't know. And he doesn't know. But he already has the added bonus of now being able to remind it, because it got it itself. Remember, you don't have to do this. You can go back to being the dolphin. You can go back into the ocean and let it go. Because once it grasped that it could let it go, but it wasn't actually going to not exist anymore, what it was going to do was lose its connection to this, but could still exist as whatever it wanted to exist at, because it is only a made-up thing. And so it can change its perspective to thinking, I have to control this man's life, I have to keep an eye on this man because he's just like a child and he can't do it himself, to going, oh, hands up in the air, I don't have to do this, I can just go off and be a dolphin. So, you know, the made-up mind can be anything that it wants to be once it realises that it doesn't have to be doing what it thinks it needs to be doing. So, yeah, it was a really interesting experience for me, actually being live in a room with someone doing that, because, you know, that I've done that with people over Skype and helped them in that perspective, but actually being there with somebody that I love as well doing that was quite an extraordinary experience. I was loving it. I was really enjoying the seeing the pennies drop, and continually every time it spoke, reminding it wasn't true, it wasn't real, that it was a dictator, that it was this, and seeing it, realising over and over again until eventually it got that the way out of it was to relinquish its idea of control and its need to be seen and heard and understood, to realising that it could just back off and leave. So yeah, that's the story of that, and I hope that's interesting to you, or it sort of jogs something. I always try to make sure that anything that I talk about with you people, you guys, is something that would be helpful to you, and you can maybe see that in yourself. This part that's, you know, trying to keep you safe is actually the problem, and it's all very well you seeing it's a problem, but it has to see itself as the problem, because you can't get rid of it. It can only get rid of itself by going, oh, I don't need to, oh, so I don't have to tell him what to do all the time, I don't have to do that all the time. Once it gets it, it's such a relief. I can remember it in myself when that happened, and that happened several times with different parts of my ego, where it would suddenly go, oh, thank God for that, I don't have to be here bashing her with a stick all the time, going, come on, that it's, you know, she can do what she wants. That's something I kept pointing out last night. He was saying, yeah, but without me, he won't be able to do that. I'm thinking, well, it doesn't matter, does it? Why would that matter to you? If he fails miserably at life, that's not your problem. You can just give it up. And to start with, the arguing about, yeah, but I need to be here for him because, you know, I'm a good guy, and if I'm not here for him, things are just going to go completely wrong, to eventually getting it to realise that it was actually just scared. It was frightened of being alone. It was frightened of being just in the void. It felt that it would disappear and become nothing. And it doesn't like the idea of being nothing. The ego wants to be everything. It wants to run the show. But when it realises that the show it's trying to run, what it's trying to do is absolutely pointless, and it actually can run any show of its own it likes away from this consciousness. It doesn't have to become nothing. It's frightened of the nothing. It's frightened of feelings and emotions because it's very head run. it's kind of, that was another thing that happened. It was saying, well, if I give up, what about all the pain? Okay, that's not your issue. If you give up, then you're walking away from that. He can sort that out. You can sort out the pain. Pain happens. Pain is part of being a human. It wants perfection. It doesn't want the fact that human life is messy, that human life sometimes is good, sometimes bad. It just wants to make it all good. But of course it can't. And when it's trying to do that, what it doesn't realise is it's scuppering everything. It's breaking every moment. Because even when a moment is good, it's then saying, well, the next moment needs to be good as good as this moment, and you mustn't lose that. And so it's like a barrage of shit coming down all the time. And when it realises, oh God, I don't have to do that, it can go away. And then the normal running of life can happen. Because life isn't always lovely. Sometimes life's a bit shit. Sometimes things are nice, sometimes things aren't nice. And it's not the fact that life isn't always wonderful that's the problem. The problem is the dictator constantly saying that it's not right. Even when things are right, it will come in with, he was explaining that his would then come in with, so when he did something right, good, you're doing a good job. You're being more like me. You need to keep that up. You need to do that on a continuous basis. Why can't you always be like that? So even good things would be tainted by it. And yeah, it needs to see through itself. That is the thing. You can see it, and that's a good start. So if you can start off by seeing it's dictatoring, seeing how it comes in and shits on everything and tells it it's not right, but the only way to get rid of it is for it needs to get rid of itself. It needs to see its own ridiculousness, its own pointlessness, and go, I can give this up. You know, this person has grown into an adult. I don't need to parent it anymore. I can go off and do my own thing. And then that is freedom. It's freedom for it, and it's freedom for the one that it's dictating to. So yeah, that's the story really. Oh, another thing actually that we realised at the end was when he managed to drop that and that went, he could then see that the one that it was dictating to was also false, because the reality is back here and is not involved. And so the dictator and the dictated to are like the two sides of the same coin. And so if one goes, the other can go too, and you're just left with reality. So yes, any questions, if I haven't explained it well, if there's anything that you thought, oh, I'd like to know more about that, then comment and I will try to tell you more. I will do my best. So nice speaking to you. I'm in England now and it's bloody freezing here. It's lovely, but it's really cold.